if this indictment is true, if what it says is actually the case, President Trump was incredibly reckless with our national security. More than that, I'm a military spouse. My husband's about to deploy this weekend. This puts all of our military men and women in danger if you are going to talk about what our military is capable of or how we would go about invading or doing something with one of our enemies.
Welcome back to America Decides. That was GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley criticizing former President Trump's indictment. Other GOP candidates on the campaign trail are also weighing in. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins me now. And Ed, just want to get your thoughts on Haley's characterization that she thinks the former president was reckless.
She seems to be going there now and being far more critical and outspoken in her concerns about this, pointing out, as we've known for a few weeks, that her husband is indeed deploying this weekend with the South Carolina National Guard, but trying to put herself at distance from him now that the content of the accusations is out there. We should point out, however, before she says that in that interview, she does what just about every other Republican presidential candidate has done in recent days, and that is either revive or start their own criticisms about how the Justice Department and the FBI writ large have been investigating the former president.
What do you think is the strategy behind that?
The Republican base simply thinks that they're being unfair to the former president and that they have aggressively targeted the Republican frontrunner, former president, more so than President Biden or Hillary Clinton, as you just heard in your conversation with Congresswoman Mace. That speaks to a real concern that a lot of base voters have about it. That said, to hear her, Nikki Haley, go out there and now say, if it's true, it's quite serious and we should be concerned about it. To hear Tim Scott earlier today in a quick conversation with reporters at an event he held in South Carolina say something very similar is a sign that a bunch of these candidates who, let's face it, are far further down in the rankings than the former president right now, realize that one way to get ahead potentially is to put distance between them and these accusations against them.
How does that square with other candidates, though, like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis?
He has also suggested that there's been a, quote, weaponization, unquote, of the Justice Department, a pretty aggressive characterization of where he thinks things are at. Has not weighed in as much on the specific charges, and I suspect he's going to get asked about it again at some point soon, and we'll see how he responds. But, you know, there are those like DeSantis who are trying to hug as close to, if not the former president himself, then to his policies, his style, and his base of support, than other candidates who perhaps are making a play for the more traditional Republican voter. That would certainly be Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. And they understand that there's a big segment of the party, or people who at least have associated with it in the past, who believe that what they're seeing here in this indictment is pretty serious.
And what about President Biden and Democrats and their reaction? I mean, I know the president has been reticent to weigh in on this, but given what you just said in terms of the characterization of the Justice Department, I mean, how can he keep his distance without looking like his Justice Department is involved? I mean, how does he straddle that line?
Keep his head down and keep away from anything that would suggest he's involved or monitoring it in any way. Refused to say last Friday when he was at, Thursday at two different events when it was Friday, he was asked twice during stops in North Carolina whether he had any comment on it, whether he talked to the Attorney General. He said no comment. Today in the briefing,
but is that enough?
Well, no, well, we don't know. But what they have said since day one, what he said as a candidate was, I'm not going to weigh in on specific cases at the Justice Department. I'm not going to do anything that would suggest politicization of federal prosecutions. And so he's avoided bringing it up himself. When asked, we'll see how he comments. But even today at the briefing, they wouldn't say whether he's read the indictment at the suggestion of the special counsel, Jack Smith, who has told all Americans they should read the indictment for themselves.
And do you think those concerns will stand out more if Biden ends up opposing someone other than Trump?
We'll see. Who is it and how aggressively do they potentially raise the issue of, as they call it, the weaponization or the politicization of the Justice Department and the FBI. Remember, DeSantis and others have said that FBI's top leadership has to be cleaned out. In her statements today, Haley was suggesting that the entire federal justice system has to be reconsidered. I mean, those are pretty aggressive stances to take, but it speaks to the anger that a lot of voters, or at least the skepticism that a lot of Americans have about how the Justice Department and the FBI are being run.
All right. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much for joining us as always. And of course, we will see you tomorrow evening when Ed actually anchors America Decides. He will be right here for you.